Okay. Gidge is in a silly mood. And she's not the only one, I guess, so okay. Okay. So I guess we'll go... Oh, don't lick my sock. We'll go first off. I got my little eggs for Thanksgiving. Little deviled eggs. So, super excited about that. Realized that I still have another week for Thanksgiving, which is nice. Not that it matters, all my laundry's clean, and that was the biggest thing, is just to make sure what I want to wear is available that day. And that won't be a problem. But yeah, so I got those, and then she sent me these little freebies. The Krampus, I know him. So those are fun. It's like, how did you know those? That's like one of my favorite holiday movies. So, yeah, she somehow knows me. With my these aren't her shop today. These are Lacey Cakes, I believe, but the others are like Eklektik shelf, and I frequently have stuff that she made because I got a little addicted there for a while when I had the income. So yeah, good times. Anyway, so today has been kind of a good day, actually. Haven't really done anything, so it's been nice. I decided I was going to take a rest day. I skated yesterday, 7 miles, I think, and my legs my legs have been a little sore. But also, I did still walk the dogs. So, and we did almost 1.5 miles today. So we weren't unproductive. It is Sunday, but we did mostly take a rest day. So, okay, the counterpart was in a dream again. And the dream was sort of all over the place. And like, there was like a brief interaction, but I was like in this classroom, but it wasn't like a classroom that I've ever been in. Like the building that I was in didn't recognize or anything. And he was there and has longer hair had longer hair in the dream. I don't know. We talked to each other, but it was a brief moment, and there was like other people in the class. But as per the norm with how I am, he said something that I didn't get initially. I took notes on it on my, I sent myself a text message this morning so I could keep track of my dream details. The bigger things that I remember from the dream this morning, other than the brief interaction, and I know I was aggravated that I missed what he was saying, and then yeah, and then he left the room, and then a little bit later I just dismissed myself from the classroom to go find a bathroom. And the weird thing was, I found 3 different women's bathrooms, but they were all like, they all had like the closed for cleaning stuff going on, right? So, and the third one that I found had like a sign with a pregnant woman on it. I was like, well, that's different. But that was just kind of that was one of the details that stood out more. And of course, in thinking about that, it's like I talk on here a lot about how I noticed that a lot of my dreams have taken place in the bathroom, and it was me hiding in the bathroom. But it was like I was it's like I would always start at some point of the dream in the bathroom. And there were at least 2 dreams that the counterpart has been, I think 3 actually, that, you know, there was some sort of bathroom scene out there. And it got me to the point where I was, you know, I realized when I was doing videos, I was, you know, I'd introduce the dream and it would be like, oh, I was in the bathroom. It's like, why the fuck am I always in the bathroom in my dreams? And then I realized it was like that sort of, you know, it was like going back to high school and middle school. It was like, that was what I did to hide away from people, you know, so like if I wasn't there, that I wouldn't have to worry about them harassing me or anything, right? So it's like, you know, I've talked about this a lot. When I was in high school, I would go, depending on what I would do, or how much I had to do and how far I had to go between classes. I was not above coming out of the classroom, going straight to the closest bathroom, then coming out long enough to, like, if I had to run to my locker, go down there or anything, do that. If I still had time and there was another bathroom closer to the next class, I would duck into that one before I would go into the classroom, rather than going into the classroom and sitting for 2 or 3 minutes while everybody else came in. It was my means of not being seen, right? It was always me hiding. So then when I noticed that I was doing it in the dreams, and I kept, again, the reason I noticed that I was doing it in the dreams all the time was because I was talking, I'd be doing the YouTube thing and I would be talking and, introducing a video, and I was in the bathroom. It's like, what the fuck? Why am I always in the bathroom? But then I realized that that has literally been something that I've done in my lifetime. It's just go hide out in the bathroom so I don't have to deal with people. So I was kind of thinking that maybe with that dream, it was sort of a way of showing me that I can't hide anymore. It's like, that's not even an option. Even though, yeah. It's like my dreams are blocking me from being able to get to the bathroom to hide. So now I will just have to be seen, I guess. But yeah, and of course there were the couple different dreams. The more, the first one that the counterpart showed up in, it was a bathroom at the high school, actually. That was the setup, except for the sinks were different. But I went into the space, but that was the space that I recognized from it. So it was just didn't think anything of it. Go into the first stall, and while I'm in there, he comes in and is doing janitorial work for some reason, but he starts at the opposite end, and I don't think he was aware that I was in there. But then when I went to come out of the stall, then we passed, and then it was this big, weird, awkward kind of thing. So there was that little moment. So that was I think that was actually the first dream that he showed up in. And I remember the biggest thing at that point in time was thinking, it's all right, so what is a music producer doing in cleaning bathrooms, right? I remember having this thought in the dream. But then as I went out the stall, it's I tried to be normal, I guess, normal-ish. And yeah, it was just there was a moment where there was eye contact, and then it was just turn around and bail as quickly as possible. But then the other dream, so that one was in the 2021 time frame. And again, it was the thing with the live stream he was doing happened, and then I said something and he responded, and then it was the whole, the mouse running through the kitchen, and somebody flips the lights on, and oh shit, I've been spotted, kind of a thing, right? So that was the the general impression from the experience. And then, he shows up in a dream pretty quick afterwards, and it's yep, okay. So that's kind of weird too. But then going back to the other one, so when I started the YouTube thing back in 2023, I've said many times, I did so many videos, and then I had to take a break. It's I had expanded so far beyond what I thought I was capable of doing. So then I had to take a step back and allow myself to adjust to the fact that I was capable of doing more than I thought. Right? So when I took a break, deleted all the original videos, because I could not stand the idea of them staying out there in the world when I wasn't doing anything to, bury them, to make them go away and be not the first thing that shows up if somebody finds me. Excuse me. And when I started feeling like it was time to go back to doing the videos. Yeah, I started getting this real strong sense in February 2024 that I needed to start again. And I was dragging my feet. And of course back then, anytime I would do the videos, it's like I would kill virtually in an hour or so just staring at my phone before I talked myself into doing the thing, right? So it was like, I don't know, it was an insanely ridiculous amount of time. And the dogs got really tired of me just hanging out in the car for a long time. And then I would talk for a long time. And then, yeah. Anyways, it was an ordeal. Before I actually started back was the dream where I started in the bathroom. But it was a different bathroom, and there's like all this like dark wood, I don't even, like, I think the walls were like dark wood, and yet there were, the stall I was in, it's like there were these like home movies or something that were playing on the wall for him, and I felt like I shouldn't have access to that information, so I wouldn't look at them. But like I wanted to, but I was like really uncomfortable about the whole idea. And the only thing I really noticed was like there was like this kind of gray and a grayish colored camper van thing. That was like the main thing, and it seemed like he was probably out on a tour or something. But I wouldn't let myself pay any more attention to that because it freaked me out. Even though it was in my dream. So I started in the bathroom stall, and there's a girl outside the stall that's talking to me, and she's leaning against the that little metal strip thing that's in between the doors, or in between the stalls. And, she's sitting there, kind of in this sort of position with the knees up and everything, and she says, "You need to start telling the story you already have to share, and then more of your mission will be revealed." It's like, well, that feels pretty clear that I need to start doing something, because I've been thinking about starting back for a long time, but I just kept not doing it, right? So then after the dream, it's like, well, now I have to. But the next part of the dream, because of course there's the little conversation piece, but then, like the next scene of it, I'm like crawling through, okay, there's like this room full of people, and again, there's still the dark wood everywhere. But it's like I'm crawling into the room, and it's like I'm trying to stay behind everybody, which thus the crawling. But it's like there's this like comfort mat kind of thing that I'm crawling through on. And, I'm kind of minding my own business, focusing more on not doing anything to attract attention from the crowd that's in the room. And then, like, he shows up crawling in on one of the same mats from another direction. But then as soon as we crossed paths, we both jumped up and, like, took off on some sort of mission. And it was like he knew more about what was going on than I did. Right, so we're like on this mission, and we're kind of running through these, or speed walking through these halls, and of course there are still the videos playing, but he doesn't say anything about them, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but he seems to know what's going on, so I just kind of went with him. And then at one point it was like he kind of aged backwards before me, like he all at once started getting really self-conscious and uncomfortable, like when we slowed down at one point. And then it was like, what I took that to mean at the time was that maybe he wasn't ready for me to know what was going on that end with him, right? So, which, I mean, makes sense, is fine, since we've barely met at all. So yeah. And the one time we did was very short. So yeah, and online. But yeah, so there was that. But then for today's dream, to have like all these bathrooms that are closed, it just felt like it was, I guess, the universe's way of telling me I can't hide anymore. It's just there's no more time for that, or whatever. It's like it's just time to be seen. So yeah. Anyway, there was another part in the dream that, like, at the start of it, when I was going to the space, it was like it was kind of like what I'm thinking of is the tunnel in Mobile, Alabama, to go over the bay. Right, so there's a tunnel that goes down, and then the road kind of goes back up. But it goes down under the water first, and then up. And it was like going through one of those tunnels. And, except for it wasn't like a whole lot of car traffic. But, like with the lighting and everything, it was that kind of set up all the same. But this is where it's kind of silly. There was like this, a carriage kind of a thing that I don't know if there was a horse at the front of it or not. I mean, it would make sense that there was, but it could have been somebody driving it. I don't know. But there was a guy at the front of it, like you would imagine for a carriage to be going. And there appeared to be some people in it, but the thing that was most noticeable was there was a bear in that kind of position that was sitting in the carriage, but like his head was out, and he just looked really content, right? But he was in that kind of position. But I'm wanting to say he might have had a little hat on with little flowers. I don't know. But that was what it made me think of, was that bear. But it was just like the bear just seemed pretty laid back and easygoing, and he's just going on this ride in the carriage. And I think, and see, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, so he's in the carriage. All I can see is above the carriage. But then at the same time, it's like there was somehow I was able to see into it as well. And it looked like he was like maybe wearing like one of those little flowers that squirts the water. For like clowns and things, those. So weird dream. I took notes, and I'm glad I did. And I think this is a big part of why I have, I mentioned the other day that I'm kind of at this point where it's like I can't listen to anything while I sleep. I can listen to a meditation when I go to sleep. Like if my mind won't shut off, that's a good time to do that. But otherwise, it's like I don't want anything other than, just like the little fan I have over by the window and my white noise machine on the rain sound. And if you can hear my ceiling fan, it's not really loud though. And I feel like I can hear the other two things over it, but it still makes noise. But those are the only things like I want at all. And I think it's, my mind is ready to process more things. Excuse me. And if I'm always listening to the things where, it's putting music into my head, whether it's the healing, the cord cutting, whatever, that's still like something that it's basically asking my brain to process this other thing that's going on. The white noise is fine. So like the past, I want to say about a week and a half or something, it's like I can't listen to anything else except maybe a meditation to go to sleep too. And last night, the one that I started, like my internet dropped off, and then when I woke up, it was still spinning. So I was thinking, I charged my phone before I went to bed. So since I wasn't going to listen to anything, I figured, it'll be like, at least 80% by the time I get up, since I'm not going to have it playing all night. But no, it got hung up on the screen with the, the internet. It said no internet, and it was just spinning, and it was like, cool. So it was down to like 40 something. It's like, awesome. Just leave it on and lit up the whole time. That's great. Anyway, I mean, it wasn't all night, because I'm wanting to say I would have shut that off when either when I fed the dogs or that was what happened after when I went to go to sleep after feeding the dogs. I don't know when it was, but anyway, it didn't suck the battery down as much as it could have had it been running all night. So there's that. But yeah. I don't know. I was just kind of in a good mood, and I've been in a good mood. The biggest thing, okay, so I talked about not wanting to skate or anything today and just wanting to take the time to rest, right? So, yeah, I was really slow on getting up and moving today. Of course, it's one of those days where it's like heating pad is good, and I didn't venture far from that for this morning. But I was like, I don't know, like I woke up at like 6:45. No, 6:45-ish. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, I turned a meditation on, because that's kind of how I've been starting my day, is like easing in with the meditations and whatnot. So I started one with like the little 10 to 12 minute things, and then dozed off again. And then when I woke up again, like probably about 45 minutes later, I started another one and then kind of dozed off again. So it was one of those days. It was like my brain was still, like stuff was still going on. It's like, you know, kind of connecting with spirits, people, things at the other levels, right? Like the 5-dimensional type spaces and whatnot. But being slow to get into my day, and then when I did finally get up and open the curtains, I spent some time still sitting here on the heating pad and just writing, and it was kind of interesting where that went too. So this morning, one of the things that I was thinking about was like activation points. So like yesterday I mentioned legacy. Today I was thinking about like activation points, and it's like, and part of this was, so Ziva has her little bed, that's a raised bed that she sleeps on, that's next to me on my bed. Right, but the other two are on the bed with me, but she's on her bed that's between the bed and the door. And you know, I got down and was sitting on the dog bed next to her dog bed, because there's another one that's not raised, for when Taz moves to the floor after he starts fussing at me. That's if he comes back in. He starts fussing, I have to open the door, he has to go check out to see whatever else is out there, maybe lay on the couch for a little bit, see if anything happens, and then he eventually comes back. So as I was sitting there petting Ziva, I was thinking about the activation points, right? So I was thinking about how, I've mentioned a lot that back in 2020, I watched the Gem Goddess reading where she said black dogs are important and mean it's about time. So it's like, okay, obviously that's important because this is the only time in my life that I've had black dogs, and I have 3 that are primarily black, right? So then, rather than getting into all those details, that's a whole nother path. I started thinking about, what was it, Gidge? Oh, the activation point on that, right? So she said in the video, black dogs, right? And I was the one that added in that piece with 3. But also, I remember several years ago, I was, going through just kind of thinking about like the ideal number of dogs for me, right? So I was thinking if you have 1 and something happens to it, then, it's like there's no other company, right? And then like when you go to get another one, it kind of feels like you're replacing it at some level. So for this, when I was 8 and we had to have my little Chihuahua Terrier mix put down, who was my little protector, which I might talk about that too because I wrote a bit about that. But I was 8 and we had to have him put down. But then, I was all sad about my dog not being there anymore, but my parents were all in go mode on let's get a puppy. So we ended up, there was, it was kind of a rough night. We were all looking, or like we were in the car, because obviously I was 8, my brother was like 10, so we had to go along, right? Yeah, plus it was a puppy, so it's going to affect us as well. But the big thing was, we had the newspaper with the classifieds, and we're looking for Sheltie puppies specifically because it was my dad's dream dog. And so we were going to finally get him his dream dog, right? And at one point we stopped at McDonald's for dinner and went into the bathroom. There again, the bathroom. And of course I was in the bathroom with my mom, just like, as we were washing our hands or whatever, and I said, of course I'm all sad about my dog, and I said something about, did Chipper have to die just so we could get a new dog? And so obviously that was how I was receiving it as this little 8-year-old kid who just lost her dog. And then, we're immediately jumping into trying to find a puppy. That was how I received it, right? So when I had this, when I'm thinking through this stuff, I want to say it was like after undergrad, sometime, I was thinking, okay, if you have one dog and something happens to it, then it's like everything kind of comes to a screeching halt, and then you don't have your friend there anymore. But then at the same time, if you feel the need to go get another dog, then it feels like you're replacing them, right? So it's like, but then also so the puppy that we got at that time was, she became my dad's dog. It was a little Sheltie named Tracy. Yeah, whole dumb things with names and whatnot. But the dog ended up being named Tracy. And then shortly after we got her, I wanted to say she was probably about a year and a half, my dad connected with somebody that worked, because he worked for the school system. They worked at the bus garage, I believe, and they told him they knew of somebody that had one, and was, he was free if we wanted him, right? So we went to check on this dog, and the guy that had him in this barn with 3 bigger dogs that weren't letting him eat or anything. Like, I remember him being all muddy and like skin and bones, and like you could feel all of his ribs and everything. And of course we had Tracy in the car with us, and we I guess the guy let Rocky out of the barn and said, if you want him, take him. If you don't, put him back in the barn. Like, that was it. That was the extent of the interaction. And, so Rocky ended up coming over and getting into the car himself because, there's kids, there's another dog, and a female dog. So he was all ready to go. So, of course, he went with us, right? So then we have Tracy and Rocky, and Rocky was 9, I think, when he ended up having to be put down, and kind of wonder if maybe he might have had like some kind of stomach cancer or something, because he got to a point where he wouldn't eat anything, and then it was like he was getting pissed at the food, and he started like just throwing it out of the bowls all the time because he couldn't eat, and like when he would go to try to eat, he started, puking a lot. It was just a big ordeal. Went downhill, ended up having to have him put down. So when we got to that point, that adds in the mindset of, if you have 2 and something happens to one, then it's the same sort of thing, except for now there's a dog also in the situation, or in that situation with you mourning, right? Because Tracy was like, that was her buddy from about a year and a half, or however old she was at that time. And, there was one night that we were all just sitting in the living room, and it was very sad. And she was laying in the middle of the floor, just kind of moping as well. So there again, it's like, you know, now we got a dog in the middle of it that's also mourning this whole situation, right? So then I was thinking 3 is a good number, right? Because if you have 3 and something happens to one, then you still have 2 others, and you can still maintain some sort of normalcy. Gidget really. She's ready for attention. I feel like my light's gonna have to change or something. It's getting dark. Anyway, let's see how bad this is. I mean, it's not wonderful. I don't like that light. I like that light just for seeing. I don't like that light for me while I'm sitting here trying to do a video. The other light's better, so depending on how long I go, I might turn that one on. But, excuse me, there we go again. Okay, so then my thinking was, if you have 3 and something happens to one, then you have a little time. You know, I mean, of course, everybody's going to grieve, but at the same time, you don't feel as, I guess, rushed to go about getting another dog, right? So it doesn't feel like you're replacing anybody. You can go through the natural process of healing while you still have 2 others. And then when you get to I don't want that. She brought me a tennis ball. And then when you get to the place where you feel like you're ready for another one, then you can add it, like after you've had some time to mourn, right? So that was the thought process. So when I was thinking or having this thought process, what I realized was I was essentially setting myself up for this like activation point, right? So black dogs being important, which, I mean, mind you, came up in 2020, which after I had all 3 of them. But I was thinking this morning was like, you know, I had that whole scenario that I played out in my head. And of course, you know, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about. That was my thought process at that point in time. And ultimately what it comes down to was it was basically, you know, that co-creation with the universe, me setting this thing in place that would become an activation point, right? So, you know, so I've talked about how after that, once I started taking the classes at Inner Path, then I started learning about like colors and ways of protecting your energy and all that stuff, right? So using that, but going back a little further to when the whole thing started. Excuse me. We got Ziva in 2013, right? And I had no attachment to the Kelpie whatsoever. I had never heard of them, I don't think, except for he had one in the past, my ex. And when he and his first ex-wife got divorced, she took the dog and the cat with her, right? So Ziva was because he wanted another Kelpie, right? And I love dogs, period. There are certain ones I don't prefer, but yeah, like the biggest thing was I wanted a dog and he wanted a Kelpie. So we got a Kelpie, but she was a rescue, right? So we went to Tennessee. It was like a 6-hour drive to get her. And then he was pissed because the entire way home he was driving and I was holding the dog. So we were bonding, right? And Kelpies are one of those that are very prone to being one person's dog. So when I'm holding her the entire time, we're bonding. Right? That's exactly... it was perfect. She's my dog. That's just all there is to it, right? So we get her in 2013. Now, she was always kind of protective of me. But after we fell and I got my TBI, she was especially protective of me. She was also largely the reason I got the TBI. But it is what it is. But that was just one of those things. It's like, okay, so, so I set this, sort of activation point being 3, which I didn't know that's what that was. It was just like I prefer this for this purpose. In hindsight, it works best if you have multiple people that are helping to take care of them. Because 3 dogs that require a lot of attention, they're a little demanding on one person. However, that's one of those things that I would not have had that had I not had the experience. I wouldn't have thought of that level. So post-divorce, when they were very much like the biggest thing that like kept me moving, especially with Gidge, because there was so much we had to throw the ball during the day, or she would become a nightmare. If I was, and you've seen her go off, and I just said that word, so she like just shifted. I see this little shadow, like I can barely see a little glow of her eyes at this point. Although, you know what? Maybe we'll go do that, and, because there's better light out there right now. So, hold that thought. I'll be back. Alright, so outside with better lighting. So the activation point thing. Okay, so I think the TBI was also, in a way, Ziva's kind of activation point to become my protector, right? So, I think she always had it in her, but I think she got really protective of me once I got my TBI, because then, my ex started shifting into the mindfuck stuff, so it was just like all downhill from there at that point. But she got like super protective. So it was like there was like the different layers of activation, right? So I got her, and she becomes more protective, and then of course it also sort of releases this like sadistic nature of my ex, for what all was going on at that time frame. There was a blue nose pit briefly, but I was at the point with my TBI and with the with what was going on with the toxic connection with him, that it was too much dog for me to handle, and he had no business having that kind of dog. We only had her like 5 months, and we ended up having to take her back to the rescue and surrendering her, because there was a incident where, he was in the middle of trying to get custody of his kid, and then we had this big powerful dog that, I wasn't in a good space for training, and he wasn't good to have it around it, period. And yeah, she and Ziva played rough. Ziva did have a hole in her armpit at one point where it looked like a tooth went through her skin. But by the time we found it, it was like it wasn't new. I never saw any blood from it or anything. And I think they just played real rough, and she got snagged, and Gidget got hung up on the ball. It went on the damn trailer. So after, there's that issue, but then also the kid, right? So at the time that the kid got to meet the dog, the kid was staying with his stepdad at the time, and the stepdad, who was in the process of divorcing the kid's mom because she fired a gun in the house, and all that chaos ensued. But it wasn't a good time. The dog jumped at the kid and cut his lip with her tooth. It was not a bite. But however, we knew that was not a good situation to have when we were in the middle of trying to fight this custody battle. So the dog ended up getting surrendered back to the rescue. And, you know, then, will you stop? You know, after she left, Ziva got real quiet and mopey. You know, of course, when we moved to Alabama, there was this span of time where we had to leave the cat with my former in-laws because we needed to find a space, right? So we had to live in a hotel for a few days until we found an apartment to move into that would accept the cat and the dog. The dog, of course, was going with us one way or another. The cat was going to hold off until, so when we went down there, we had the kid with us when I brought him back for my former mother-in-law to take him to his mom to get ready to go back to school. I brought the cat back with me then. So there was that little span of time where Ziva was out without the cat, and then there was the little span of time where, I mean, she had the cat after the dog was gone, but still, I mean, it wasn't the same because she had a dog that she was playing with all the time, and then we had to surrender it. And of course, that was a pain in the ass too, because we were getting ready to go back to Alabama, and Ziva was in the car. And we got out with Stormy and then came back and didn't have Stormy anymore. And Ziva was still in the car and she was just like, what happened? Right? So it was just this big traumatic thing. And I'm going to pause and go back in the house. So hold on. So this definitely isn't wonderful, but it's what I got. So this is what we're going to roll with. It's the best I got at this point in time. So it's one of those ring light things. But yeah, I'm gonna have to mess with it a bit more because I don't love this, but it's better. Really, you can see my face, I guess. I tried all the different lamps. Honestly, probably be better in the office, but I gotta clean the bird cage again, so we're not doing it. So here we are. Anyway, so after Stormy left, we had a span of time where we were both working, and when we get back in the evening, Ziva was pouting and like completely miserable. It's like, this isn't working. So, you know, when we started out at the apartment, there was a dog park that was like a 10-minute walk away, and I would take her over there frequently, and we'd just go hang out, and then other people would come in, and she was great with other dogs, so she always has been. Of course, now she's 12, so she's more uninterested in the younger ones, but as long as nobody's going to get in her business, you know, we're fine. You know, but like when she was, of course, when we moved there, she was, I think it was before she was 2? Yeah, I think she was about a year and a half when we moved down there. So it worked then. And it was kind of sad because there was one day I took her to the dog park, and of course, when we were up here, I always was bringing her over here so she could get to spend some time with other dogs, right? So of course my parents had 3 Shelties and there was a rat terrier, right? And of course I was responsible for the rat terrier too, but once he got settled in with the Shelties, he wasn't going anywhere, so it's like, he was still my dog. I mean, they all were, but, you know, at the same time, they were family dogs. And they weren't going anywhere. But, all the same, the Shelties taught Ziva a lot of what she knew, right? They were the big ones that taught her pack dynamics and all this fun stuff. And we go to the dog park this one day, and somebody comes in with a Sheltie, and the Sheltie did not give a shit about her. Like, she perked up as soon as she saw it and ran over and was excited to meet it, and it didn't care about her one bit. It was so sad. So yeah, like, but then, like, when we were in the house, and, you know, we had the cat, so she wasn't completely by herself, but at the same time, it wasn't the same as having a dog. So when we started, you know, I was like, we got to get her a friend. This isn't working. Like, she is sad. She is miserable. We need to find her a friend, right? So then it starts this whole thing where I found, because there again with the rescues, I found Taz on Pet Finder. And when I requested more information, they said there were 4 people, like, there was a wait list, and there were 4 people ahead of us. It's like, well, okay. So my ex kept looking, and what he came up with was this little charming number, who obviously did not stay with him. And there was a family like 10 minutes down the road from us. She was the last of the litter. She was 12 weeks old. She was ready to go. She was, you know, at the age where she was good and ready for her new home. So we took Ziva with us when we went to meet her. And of course, they took to each other right away. And so we end up getting Gidge. Because how could you resist that cute little face? Plus, she used to have... she used to have this marking where it looked like she had a partial G-string. So she can't believe I'm talking about this. She has like a white dot by her butthole. It went around, and it went down by her, like, on over her hip. Now there's just like a little bit of, like, a little spot left, like most of the line left, but once I saw it that way, it's like I could never unsee it. So it always just looked like she had a little partial G-string. And then, of course, I got this adorable little picture when she was a puppy. I had put the bowl of food on a stool to keep her out of it for a minute. And she had like one foot wrapped around the leg of the stool, and the other one was on the top of the stool, I think, and like her tail straight up, and you like see the little stripe of the G-string coloring real well. It's like, ooh, she's working it for her food. But anyway, it's an adorable picture. Yeah, I don't even know where it's at to share it here. Anyway, like, I know I have it on Facebook somewhere, and I got it other places, but yeah, I'll have to dig it out so I can show that off at some point, because it's adorable. But yeah, so we got her, and then we heard from the rescue, and it was kind of funny because they sent me a message saying that if we were still interested in Taz, which his name was Blue Regard at the time. Obviously that couldn't stay. So, that was his name very briefly with the rescue. So she said that, you know, if we were still interested, then, you know, we could come check him out. I was like, all right, yes. But, you know, that was like the big thing when we were on the way back to the house with Gidge, this little adorable puppy. It was like, all right, so what's going to happen when we hear from the rescue and it's our turn? And my ex was just like, we'll have 3 dogs. It's like, all right. So this thing that I set the intention for, like, all those years ago, like, I didn't think of it as setting an intention. It was just, it was just me trying to process through what would be the ideal number of dogs for me, you know, and for my situation. And that was what ended up happening. So anyway, when I heard back from the rescue, it's like, what are they going to allow us to still check him out, even though we just got a puppy? And so I sent this big long spiel. It's like, well, you know, I've had dogs all my life, so as long as you guys are okay with it, I'm willing to try this. So we ended up meeting with the girl at the dog park, and he stayed on the leash the entire time because he was untrustworthy. Always kind of has been. Which he has to meet other dogs while he's still on a leash because he's like really hard-headed and, you know, pushy. So like whenever he's met new dogs, he's on a leash and we are walking around the yard several laps and then kind of playing it out as we go. But, you know, like the entire time the lady with the rescue for Piper was here, he was on a leash because I did not want him showing his ass. But yeah, so it was really obnoxious because the first few days that we had him, I don't have any pictures. Like, I have minimal pictures from that time frame because my ex was hypersensitive about we can't take pictures of him and post them because, you know, because we owe people money and all this crap. It's like, this is stupid. This is another one of those things, like, you know, the one where I was talking about yesterday with the privilege thing and how my mom sweet-talked the secretary at the school to give me those extra 2 points so that I could graduate with honors when I hadn't gotten, like, it's like, I was smart enough to have gotten it, but I was so distracted with everything at this energetic level, which I wouldn't have had the awareness to know, like, I knew there was something more going on that I was very sensitive to and picking up on, but I didn't know exactly, I didn't have the words for it at that point in time. Because you start talking about energy and stuff back then, I mean, people are just going to think you're nuts, right? I would have thought that myself anyway. So yeah, but there again, you know, she sweet-talked the secretary, so I got those 2 points, so I graduated with honors. And I don't know if it did anything or not, because I didn't pursue a whole lot of scholarships in my undergrad time because part of it was I didn't feel like I deserved them since, you know, this thing had happened, right? But it was one of those things where you can't talk about it. It's like, if we can't talk about it, then why did we do it? Because I'm not okay with that. I like being able to be open about things, especially when I love dogs, right? I love my fucking dogs. So I would like to post pictures with my dogs, right? But like the first few days, I was not allowed to take a whole bunch of pictures because I couldn't post them. And finally I was like, this is stupid. If he's staying with us, which I assume he is, you know, of course, the day that, okay, so we had him in the house with us. You know, my ex was at work, and I was, I think I was doing something with my plants, and I looked down, and he's just staring up at me like, what can I do? How can I help? Tell me what my job is, right? Just the way he was looking at me reminded me of Chance. It's like, there is no way this dog is going anywhere. And then at the same time, it was Chance's birthday when I said, this dog is staying with me. He is meant to be mine. And then, of course, he's got the tree of life on his head, so that's pretty cool. You know, that was something that I commented on back then, and of course, I went to seminary, graduated in seminary 2016, and then got them in 2017, so it was post-seminary, but I was kind of opening up to more mystical side of things, kind of leaning into that part where I, you know, had felt like mysticism was the thing for me. So I was kind of leaning into that more. So then I have this dog with the tree of life on his head, and he's got this little, his little white Bentley mark. Depending on how he's, you know, because if it's like twitching his eyebrows, then it'll change how it looks. That thing can look like a pentagram, like a Star of David, and like just a hot mess, right? So it's like even the different shapes within the Bentley mark. It's like, yep, that's he's meant to be mine, you know. And then Gidge, this adorable little number here. Her birthday is 2/22. So naturally that was, you know, that's incredibly relevant, you know, but also additional sorts of activation points, if you will. because, that was like, I was getting into the numbers and the synchronicities and all that stuff. So, 222 for her birthday. It's like, well, and twos are one of the biggest ones that I see most often. And Taz with the stuff on his head. And then, Ziva, she was just with me since 2013. She wasn't going anywhere. That was, as soon as we got her, it's like, that dog is mine. And, all the trips I made to and from Alabama, there was not one that I went on that she did not go with me. And when we were up here starting out, anytime I could take her, if it was like to the pet store, if, any of these little errands, like Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, she would go with me because she's really well behaved. And, so she was always my sidekick, my little co-pilot. So yeah. But then, there was the time where on my trial run of leaving, that was the biggest thing with how I knew that I wasn't done there, is because my mom made me leave Gidget and Taz behind for that span of time. So, I took it as an opportunity to see how genuinely useless my ex was with animals. And, confirmed, because Taz would be in his crate anywhere from 14 to 20 hours a day or better. I mentioned the other day that Gidget got in trouble at one point because she tore up my ex's favorite IU basketball hat. But since she's the puppy, she could do no wrong. So even though he caught her doing it and knew it was her doing it, he decided Taz was going to be crated at night, right? So then he works, 12, 14-hour days, and then, the dog's hardly ever out, right? So it's like, no, this is not acceptable, right? So a big part of, when I went back, okay, so the entire 9 months that I was gone that time, at least once a month I would get to spend a few days with them, because I made several trips to Alabama, but my ex also made several trips to Indiana, because that was the time of the custody case, right? So December was when I left. So then around Christmas, he ends up coming back because, well, then he's trying to win me back, right? So he brought the dogs up, and the dogs stayed with me, and he got to go stay with his mom and dad. Unfortunately, that was not the case every single time, but, it should have been. I think it did happen that way more than once. But like, he had to come, or he decided to come up in December because he didn't want to be home by himself at the holidays. So then he comes up here because family's up here and try to win me back. And January, February, March, and April, he came back for like once a month for custody stuff, like court stuff. I'm wanting to say May and July, I went back down there. And the big thing with July was I remember that one because I wanted to spend my birthday on the beach. So that was the motivating thing. However, because he did not have his son at that point in time, I talked to his brother. It's like, well, do you want to, it's like, you can come with me when I go down for a week or whatever, and he had his daughter with him because he had her for the summer. So it's like, we can all just go and we'll, stay at the house. So, there's like, he doesn't have to worry about like a hotel or anything. It's like, well, just stick with us. We got you. Right. And so he went down down to Alabama with me. Him and his daughter did. And then he had to be at work, I think, on my birthday, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt. So we ended up driving like all night going into my birthday. So I didn't, or the day after or something. It was something that it's like I barely got the time. I did get to spend time on the beach around my birthday, but it's something right around I don't know if we left on my birthday or if that was the day he had to be back at work, but it was a little bit of a time crunch on that end. But yeah, so, there again, Ziva with us. She's so damn cute, though. Let me shut this curtain. But, yeah, so, and then he showed up toward the end of the month, in July. And, of course, his birthday was 1st of August, so that was roughly when I went back for the final attempt. But, there again, so that whole activation point thing, right? So, in that time frame, I had to leave 2 of my dogs behind, so that wasn't able to be the no. She is adorable, but she is a pain in the butt. And her tail will not stop wagging until she starts to scratch. Okay, so when I went back to Alabama the last time, then it was like, at that point, it's like, they will never leave me again. I will never leave them behind like that again. They are mine. They are with me. They are meant to be with me. And he obviously didn't do for shit on taking care of them the rest of the time. So yeah, like that was just, it's like if I was leaving for good, and that was what I told my mom the last time. It's like when I started getting in go mode on this is not going to work, and I got to figure out all these pieces. Like one of the first things I said to my mom was, my dogs are not leaving, or are not staying behind at this time. Of course, she met them at that point because, every time he came up for court or anything, they were staying here. So, yeah. Her little tail wags just like a wave. So... so I got my 3 dogs, and then, of course, they're primarily black, and then, of course, I don't make sense of that information, like that being a relevant thing, until I start taking these classes at Inner Path, after I watched the Gem Goddess video, where she's talking about black dogs are important to me, and it's about time, so it's like all these little things that had to fall into place before I was able to leave that situation for good, but then also the different layers of realizing how even the dogs have been a part of, like, my process, right? So, that I had to have the 3 of them as a means of, well, I mean, they didn't all have to be black dogs, but because it worked out, and because my archetype over here, it worked out that way. So then I realized that the colors actually serve a purpose as well. And it's like, oh, so, and one of the things that I was writing about this morning was Even Chance, the Sheltie we got my senior year, or going into my senior year of high school. That was very much my dog. He was a Sheltie, and he was sable, but it looked like a black saddle on his back. And he was the one that had the most black of all the Shelties that we had to that point. So and it's like, it was like the universe was shifting things even at that time. And like what I wrote this morning was, focusing on the piece, because of course Rocky had been my mom's dog. And then when Rocky died, of course, we go back to looking for a puppy. We actually started, there was a dog that we probably should have had instead. Because we connected with one of the local Sheltie rescues, and they brought this one that was 1.5 years, and her name was Jessie, and she was super cute and super sweet. And when they brought her over, she got along with Tracy great. and I loved her. The next dog was going to be mine one way or another. We should have gotten that one, but for whatever reason, my mom didn't want to get the rescue, and she wanted a puppy instead. So we got the puppy, which, you know, instantly, like, that's the biggest thing, is like when you get a puppy and you have a dog that's already like 12, it ages the dog even more, right? Because then you see all this little high-strung energy, and then you have the older one, and it's just like, you know, it's just, you see how old it is, because then, of course, the little puppy being around also makes it more tired, as well as everything else. But, for reasons, we didn't get the rescue, but we ended up with Chance, who was still my baby. And, of course, there were some difficulties with that age thing at first, but eventually, they were fine. Especially because that one was, he was with me all the time, when I was home from school and band stuff. So yeah. She just keeps wagging her tail at me. Maybe I should just sit over here with her. Yeah, anyway. You gonna be in the video? Don't lick my mouth, that's gross. No. Nope, she's going crazy again. Down on the level. No. Okay, we're back, and this dude's back on the bed. It's like my light sucks down there again. So, no, I don't want that. Yeah, this is what I get. Stop. Oh, she set the goon off. Anyway. No! So, activation points. Not headache free. For sure, not headache free. Take a break. Don't want it. Don't want it. Come over here away from the edge of the bed. So yeah. What else was I writing about this morning? I had this other, like, little rambling tangent where I started thinking about, like, some more stuff with my... Oh, maybe I'll save that for tomorrow, because we're already at 1 hour and 7 minutes. And I feel like... And now my stomach's making noises, too. Had a couple muffins today. That's the extent of what I have eaten. So I might need to find food. Yeah, I'm going to save that for tomorrow, maybe. Anyway, but then, I was thinking, because I've talked about a lot how, like, the 5 guys in the band, right? They were a sort of activation point for me on this awakening process as well. And, of course, once I encountered the Counterpart's energy, then it was like this whole other level of, now you have to do all this work and there's no way you can get out of it, right? So it's like this... best case scenario, ideal relationships type thing. If this is something you want, there is work you have to do, right? So then it was like this thing where it became something where, I had to go through the healing work, do all the hard stuff, right? And so I did. And it's been quite a journey. But again, I'm glad that I've processed through it to the extent that I have, and I like where I am now. I mean, shy of being still at my parents' house. However, even that is temporary, right? But then, okay, just going back to the point of the 5 guys in the band, and it was like the specific combination of energies was this sort of activation, right? Excuse me. So, like the 3 black dogs were this means of activation earlier, like it was, part of my divine blueprint, if you will. Except for, you know what? I was going to say, except for it's not necessarily accounted for in my astrological chart, but there is something that is. And I want to say that somebody mentioned, I commented on a Facebook group at some point in time, And I mentioned that I had, I think, like Saturn and Neptune in the 6th house. I don't know what it was, but they were saying that something with what I had in the 6th house had everything to do with the thing that I had talked about, because one of the things that I was talking about was how, I've always felt more connected to my animals than like the people in my family even. And even that was something that could be accounted for in my chart. So it's like, so I started to say maybe it's not necessarily in my chart, but then it is kind of, at some level it is, because I remember that conversation that I had with somebody where they were talking about the things that were, that essentially did serve that purpose. So yeah, so we won't say that it's not in there, because it absolutely is somehow. And, I heard something the other day that I don't remember if it was a house or a certain planet that, like one, it rules over like big animals, so like horses and cows and all those. But then like the other was like the smaller ones, dogs and cats and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't know all of those details. I know that they're in there somewhere. But another thing that I was thinking about yesterday or today was that all the different things that make up your chart even. So, okay, so like I have my sun, moon, rising, Mercury, and Mars in Cancer. So there are certain, so like that shadow aspect and the protective nature of the Cancer, that's in that's something that I have to face at the level of all of those planets, right? So like that's like a deeper level of getting to me and the things that make me up, and like my tendency to hide, right? That whole the crab is one of those creatures that takes its home everywhere it goes. So it's like one of those things, so it like makes perfect sense on that end. But then like my Venus is in Leo, so then there's still, like the, I want to say something with, okay. The point is, whatever all the planets are in, what signs they are and what's not, every sign has a light aspect and a shadow aspect. So it's like, as you consider like all the different planets that are in your chart and where they are at, even that is a specific part of, what you have to bring into balance to be able to be fully in balance, right? So it's like the shadow aspect of all the different things. So for like, like one of the things with the shadow aspect of Leo being my Venus sign, has to do with seeking validation. So in the ways in my lifetime that, like one of the biggest things that I do for showing love for others is, I want to like, I'm one of those people that if we go out somewhere and somebody asks for something and I don't have it, this is one of those things that people liked about me in the Guard was I will never again be without that item. Right? So like the one time something had come up and it was like we needed a multi-tool, and then I had a multi-tool, and then, when I end up in that situation with the commissioned officers, where I got my little coin that I showed off the other day. Well, I don't know if it was that one in particular, but I know one of the places that I got the coin was because of, the hanging out with the commissioned officers and nobody else had something and yet I had it, right? So it's like, as soon as I'm in a situation where it's like somebody asked me for that, I will never be without that again, right? That's something that I do. But there's that level of it where there's still that little shadow bit of, is it also because I need the pat on the back? There's been a time where absolutely, but that's part of bringing it into balance, right? Recognizing that that's a part of the shadow and then kind of dealing with it and finding a way to deal with it, right? But on that note, I'm going to wrap this up and I'll continue it tomorrow or whenever I do this. So, otherwise my stomach's getting ready to make a whole lot of noises. So I'm going to go find food, and and Gidget's waiting. So, God help us. As always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.